words, then we'll jump right in.
All right, so we can stand.
Oh, say, fine. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just put your phone on silent. You don't want to. Yeah, everyone, silence your phones, please. This will.
Which one is mine? As long as you open them, you know which one is yours.
Yeah, don't be Blake and drink after the sick guy.
You can have the one on the end, that's fine.
Don't let him fool you. He was one of the guys licking doorknobs.
No, please. I've been to his house. Tiger Mom?
Yeah, we are.
No, not yet. Larry's tournaments. All prime. Larry's tournaments, take one.
Let's do it.
This way we can make him feel extra short by standing right behind him.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom. Welcome, welcome. And here we go. And I want to say 3 words. There we go. Now it's working. When technology works, it's a good thing. So I want to say 3 words, which are chazak. Repeat that with me. Chazak.
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 V'nitchazek.
V'nitazek.
Which means be strong, and we strengthen one another. When we finish a book of the Torah, we say these 3 words so that we move on to the next book. So that we hope that we'll get there again in another year. And the amazing thing about Torah, you can read it over and over and over again, and you'll always find something new. And this week, why do we say chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek? Because last week we ended the book of Genesis, and this week we enter into the book of Leviticus. And I'll share more about why that's so significant. What's that?
Exodus.
Did I say numbers?
You said Leviticus.
Well, you know what? It's good that people pay attention to these.
She passed the
He
test.
skipped a couple books in the middle.
Skipped a couple books. No, it's important that we talk about Exodus because this week as we begin Exodus, this is the beginning of the story where a Pharaoh arises in Egypt who doesn't know Joseph, who enslaves the Israelites, but it's Moses' story that makes it all happen. And I'll share that story tonight a little bit later before I introduce my friend and my brother, Dr. Ben Williams, who is not only my friend and my colleague here, but also a local Philly guy, so who's been here for a long time, but a lot longer than I've been here. But Dr. Ben Williams is the president of the Cobb County SCLC, of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and he is going to share with us the state of Cobb tonight, and charge us and inspire us tonight. And Dr. Williams, it is an honor to have you with us tonight.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
My pleasure. So with that, take a moment, and I'd like you to close your eyes. We begin this Shabbat. God gave us this gift to refresh and recharge and rest. And when we use that gift, we feel God's strength. And I want to share it with you as we figure out where we are this evening and what you want from this Shabbat of rest. I want to share with you words from Dr. King that he shared in November of 1963 with the Union for Reform Judaism at their 47th biennial. And he highlighted the involvement of Jews in the civil rights movement and charged us with the challenges that we face in pursuit of justice. And he said human progress comes through the tireless efforts and the persistent work of dedicated individuals. who are willing to be co-workers with God. And without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the insurgent and primitive forces of social stagnation and irrational emotionalism. We must help time, and we must realize that the time, and you know what he's going to say here, is always right to do right. Where are you in this space? Where are you as the story of the Exodus begins once again? And where are you as you sit in this holy place on Dr. Martin Luther King weekend, as we remember the charge, the challenge, and the inspiration that we all play in bringing healing and love into this world? So we begin with our beautiful band and choir as we begin, and it's so filled with blessing as we partner and we bring Cobb County together, not only here in East Cobb, but in Mableton and Ackworth and Kennesaw, as we bring our friends back. And it's such a blessing to have you with us tonight.
Anybody here seen my old friend Abraham? Can you tell me where he's gone? Free lot of people, but it seems a good they die young. You know I just look around and he's gone. Has anybody here seen my old friend John? Can you tell me where he's gone? Free lot of people, but it seems a good they die young. You know I just look around and he's gone. Has anybody here seen my old friend Martin? Can you tell me where he's gone? Free lot of people, but it seems a good they die young. You know I just look around and he's gone. Didn't you know the things that they stand for? Didn't they try to find some new way for you? You'll be free. So one day is soon, and it's gonna be one day. Anybody here seen my old friend Bobby? Can you tell me where he's gone? Follow him walking over the hill. Abraham, Martin, and John.
Just getting started. We turn to page 2 as we light our Shabbat candles, as we bring light into our sanctuary. I'm going to call forward Molly and Oliver, and I'm not going to tell you really anything about them except they're getting married in March, and I'm going to bring them back later on as we offer them a blessing on this Shabbat for their wedding. So we turn to page 2 as we light our Shabbat candles.
Hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious.
v'shanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you. As we continue with our service, we turn to page 20, our Shabbat anthem, Lecha Dodi. And for those who may not be with us on a regular basis, Lecha Dodi was written by the mystics in Sfat, in the holy city of Sfat in ancient Israel. And the beautiful thing that the mystics understood, referring to the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, they knew that bad things were going to happen. But God is with you in the bad and the good. And if you believe and if you have faith, then God will take you through. The problem is we give up too easily in our world. We don't wait for God to take us through. So we say, Gam ze yavor, this too will pass. And that's what Lecha Dodi is about. Whatever your week was, however challenging it was, this too will pass, because guess what? You know where all that is right now? It's in the past. It's time to move on. It's time to refresh and to be the people that we are destined to be. We join on page 20, Lecha Dodi, verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when we reach that last stanza, we're going to rise, face the entrance, and welcome Shabbat, because that visual act, that physical act, allows us to be present. Page 20.
Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, mishmiyanu delta nekad, Adonai echad v'shemo echad, Hashem v'tiferet v'lehilah.
Turn face front, the main stand. Turn to page 28, our formal call to worship the Baruch Hu. And there are, as Judaism teaches, you need 10 people to have a minyan, to have a prayer service. And there are 9 words on that page in the Baruch Hu. And they say, well, why 9 and not 10 if that's the formal call to worship? Who is the 10th? The 10th is you. The 10th is God. The 10th is the presence when we build community together. And without you, community doesn't happen. So we show up, we stand up, and we join together. Page 28, the Baruch Hu.
Baruch
continue with the Shema, the watchword of our faith that teaches us and reminds us of Jewish tradition that says we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we listen more than we speak. We join in the Shema, page 34.
Shema, Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema, Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto. Baruch Shem Kevod Shema, Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema, Israel, Adonai Eloheinu,
You may be seated. Page 36 is the second prayer that goes along with the Shema, called the V'ahavta, and it's all about not only loving God, but also what we teach our children. And if we don't love God, and we expect our kids to, or we expect our kids to obey because we want them to do as I say and not as I do, we're hugely mistaken that we think that they're going to follow, because they will follow, but they're going to watch what we do. We have to teach love. And as my mentor and my friend, Pastor Hayward Wiggins from Camden City, New Jersey, he would also always get up and he would always say, "I love you." And in Jewish congregations, people are like, "What?" But in the black church, you know what that means. Yeah, amen. That's right. So they know to say, "I love you," and they say, what back? "I love you." So let's try that tonight. I love you.
I love you.
And that's the way it should be, when we all share that love with each other, because that love spreads and goes so far we would never even see where it ends up. So we join in Debbie Friedman. It was recently her yahrzeit of this incredible singer, composer, liturgist in the Reformed Jewish movement. This is her yahrzeit, the anniversary of her death recently. And we remember her and her music and what she put this to English, "Thou shalt love." It's her interpretation and the love that she shares with us even to this day. Page 36.
Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words
Kol Emeth. God is our God in truth. We continue on page 40 with what's called Shirat Hayam, the song of the sea. But tonight we sing redemption song. And many of you know this. You can feel free to join us. But redemption is what happens when we come together. Redemption is what happens when we find freedom for all. And there is a beautiful piece that I want to share with you that speaks to this, that says from Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan, he says, don't merely expect to find or to believe that life is worthwhile, make it worthwhile. Don't merely see life whole, make it whole. Not knowing which should come first, to improve oneself or to improve the world, we end up doing neither. Actually, the only way to improve the world is by improving oneself. And the only way to improve oneself is by improving the world. And if we don't cross the sea, where do we remain? We remain enslaved. And last year at this time, Dr. Williams and I, we convened a group of students. And it was an incredible story. As we shared, only about a third of the Israelites left Egypt because they were scared. They were scared of the unknown. They were scared what's across the sea. They were scared to leave where they were. And Dr. Williams chimed in and he said, guess what? Only a third of the slaves left too. Many of them stayed on their plantations because they too were scared about what would happen on the other side. Fear is real. But when we come together, we cross together, holding hands, knowing that the only thing that we should fear is fear itself. Then we stay enslaved. We stay oppressed. And we need each other right now in our world. So we join in the redemption song and let us march to redemption. Let us cross the sea together.
Old pirates, yes, they rob by, so would I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption song, redemption song. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, and let ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear of another skin tone. Don't you think it's about time? How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Oh, some say it's just a part of it. We gotta fulfill the hook. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs, redemption songs. song. Redemption songs.
Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Blessed are you, dear God, who redeemed Israel and gives us the potential to be redeemed in our world today. And we say, Amen. I want to share before we rise for the Amidah, for the heart of Jewish prayer. I want to share the fact that tonight, this weekend, is the 1-year anniversary of the Colleyville hostage situation. For those who remember last year in Colleyville, Texas, my friend and classmate, Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker, his congregation was taken over and held hostage by an armed gunman. And the powerful piece is that sometimes when we try to be kind, we get taken advantage of. And that's what happened that day a year ago. Because as he shared, he had gotten to his synagogue ready for Shabbat morning services. Only a few congregants were in the building since most were planning to join on Zoom. Remember, this was a year ago. And a man knocked on the door and asked if we had a night shelter. He looked like he was homeless and needed to warm up. It was cold that day. And after talking with him, when I was fixing tea, I didn't see any red flags. He seemed calm, interested in warming up, and very open to experiencing a Jewish service for the first time. But he said, at this point in the service, because he had had tea, and then he came in and joined the service, and it was at this point, the Amidah, the central heart of Jewish prayer, where Rabbi Citron Walker said, when I heard the click of the gun, I hoped I was mistaken, and that it was just noise from the building. During services, I let him know he didn't have to stay for the whole service. That's when he pulled the gun on him. And over the course of that day, he talked at length with the gunman. He had traveled from England all the way to their synagogue because there was a convicted terrorist held at a prison nearby that he wanted to get set free. And what he says, though, after that day, at the end of that day, not only that he would extend his kindness again, but he also said, building bridges in the community are so important. Because during and after the hostage crisis, everyone in our community, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, and others came together with law enforcement and civic leaders to support each other. And if that isn't coming together as beloved community, that Dr. King realized the vision. Only if we could do it more often. Only if we could do it so that this kind of stuff didn't happen, that we were in this together, all of us. What a different world it would be. Equality and justice for all. And as we are about to rise for the heart of Jewish prayer, there's the prayers on the page, but the prayers of our own hearts that we offer here tonight. Offer them freely and with love, because it takes all of us to create that image of peace in our world. But peace in our world comes first, peace in our own hearts. So we turn in our prayer books to the Amidah, which we can find together on page 46 as we rise for the Amidah, our standing prayer, the heart of Jewish prayer. As we face east towards our ark and towards the holy city of Jerusalem.
Adonai sifata tiftaku fia gita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your
48.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elokei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Hasei Avot V'imachod, U'mevii Geulah Lifnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Yakava, Melech Otzer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah,
Page 50.
Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Koshiach, Mashiv HaRuach Mori HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Roflim Merofei Oholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayeh Memunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umito Mehelach, Melech Memi Tumekayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'neman Atav Lakayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol.
You may be seated. We turn to page 253 as we pray for those who are in need of healing in our community. On our Misha Baruch, on our prayer list, we think of Debbie Antonoff, Richard Barker, Jerry Barrett, Jay Bauer, Jessica Berkeley, Shelley Bitter, Maxine Bucarelli, Estelle Evron Burrows, Marlene Kaplan, Ray Clark, Bruce Cohen, Doe Cohen, Doris Cohen, Robert Corby, Steve Despins, Brian and Caleb Dressen, Clark DeVoskin, Mitch Earl, Beth Enig, James Florio, Kathleen Furch, Dr. Bruce Fox, Bobby Fredrickson, Lauren Friedman, Max Gans, Gloria Goldsmith, Tom Gorgon, Sally Greenstein, Esther Greenwald, Rick Hack, George Campbell Hamilton, George Hess, Braden Hink, Helene Holzman, Blake Ho, Laura Jacoby, Al Justin, Layla Kaminer, Philip Kaufman, Elliot Kirshner, Marilyn Krasnov, Bill Lerner, Cindy Levine, Ansley Levy, Marcia Levy, Dorothy London, Bob Luciano, Liz Lyman, Lisa Macklin, Roberto Maybisher, Rob Maynard, Yarden Mayer, Ben Yitzhak, Arnold Mayer, Randy Mitchell, Phyllis Mix, Lowell Morrow, Greg Mosher, Mark Norman, Arthur Newman, Joyce Newman, Richard Numeroff, Lisa Oppenheim, Athena Pickett, Kathy Rasnick, Jody Roberts, Norman Rosenblatt, Barry Rosenblatt, Sherry Rosenblum, Patty Savage, Donald Schaefer, Brian Schneider, Eric Schuster, Lee Sexton, Nancy Shallett, Jill Shepard, Lori Sherman, Judith Siegel, Carter Silk, Carol Silver, Nicole Aronson Silverman, Valerie Simmerman, Courtney Singer, Dee Singer, Robin Singer, Debbie Singerman, Melissa Smith, dear Randy Suchi, Marianne Teasley, Jack Wayman, and Tom Wazinski. If you have another name at this time, please feel free to share as we go around the sanctuary.
Teresa Washington, Luther Washington, DeAndre Laws, Ethel Reed, and Teresa Williams.
We take all those names, our hearts with our own as we pray for healing. Page 253 in the middle, Debbie Friedman's Prayer for Healing, Misha Berach. May the one who blessed our ancestors.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. With refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim. Blessed are you, dear God, healer of the sick. And we say together, Amen. Know that if you prayed for someone this evening, let them know that we were all praying for their healing tonight. As it's always a comfort to know that you're not alone in your time of need. We turn back to page 62 as we pause for a few moments of silent prayer and meditation. Feel free to use the words on the page or the prayers of your own hearts. As we pray for peace, right after 9/11, many of us know where we were at that moment. There was a beautiful peace, a verse from the book of Psalms. It begins, Olam chesed yibaneh, I build the world with love. That peace was put into song by Rabbi Menachem Creditor, then living in California, now in New York, and his daughter asked him, Daddy, what do we do? What do we do? And he referred to the book of Psalms and said, we build the world with love. That's what we do. And that's what this song is, and it requires us. Not only do I build the world with love, but you have to build the world with love. And if we build the world with love, then God will build this world with love. Feel free to join with us. Only 3 Hebrew words, the rest are in English. Olam chesed yibaneh. Try that with me. Olam
Olam
chesed
chesed
yibaneh.
yibaneh.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
You can feel free to close your Sidurim, your prayer books, at this time. As we begin the book of Exodus, Denise, Exodus, we learn about Moses and his story, his youth story, as he grows up in Pharaoh's palace. And whether or not he fully knows his identity and who he is unclear from the text. But what we do know is that his patience for injustice is very, very small. As we know that one day as he grows up, he walks out and he sees an Egyptian taskmaster beating an Israelite slave. And he looks around and doesn't see anybody. And he kills that taskmaster and he buries him in the sand. A little bit later, a couple of Israelites said, "We saw what you did." And the question, as he learned what that was about, because the rest of his life, he practiced nonviolent resistance. He went to Pharaoh when God told him, but he didn't go until he had his moment, his aha moment, or his calling. Because he became a shepherd, and he's shepherding one day, and one of the sheep runs away, and he goes to chase it, because every sheep is important. Comes around a corner, and he sees a bush that's all aflame. And if a bush is aflame, do we stop? Do we take the moment to see what's going on? And Moses, he stopped and he looked into that fire. And he realized that the bush was burning. It was fire, but it wasn't burning. And then and only then that he took that time did God call and says, "Moshe, Moshe." And what does Moshe reply? What does Moses say? A word that only appears 14 times in the Torah. Hineni, here I am. And Hineni is not, "Yo, I'm here, God." It's I'm here, I'm present. I'm in the moment. And it's then and only then that God tells him to go back in Egypt and go free the Israelites. Go free your people, Moses. Because we have to show up in order for it to happen. And we live our lives so many times just going through the motions. We don't engage, we don't look people in the eyes anymore. We barely see anybody anymore, don't we? And what Moses in this portion is teaching us, you got to look long enough to see. Because if I can see you and I can look in your eyes, then I have an obligation to you. That means I got to care about you as a human being. And so much of the world, we don't even take the time to say hello, let alone look at somebody in the eyes. Especially somebody that's different than us. And that's why we're told in the Torah that you should love your neighbor as yourself. How many times? 109. Nice. Once. Once. But you should love the stranger as yourself 36 times. 36 times. Why do you think? Because you didn't listen the 35 other times. And it's time to listen. It's time to hear. And it's time to understand. And I want to share one final piece. And I shared a little bit of this on Yom Kippur, on the Day of Repentance. But as part of the Leadership Atlanta class this year, we had our Race Awareness Day that was run by Al Vivian. And if you know the name, it should be familiar. The son of C.T. Vivian, who died in 2020, who was the last of Dr. King's cabinet members, who was responsible for the sit-ins and much more. And he and Al led these seminars for Leadership Atlanta for many years until CT said to his son, Al, I can't do it anymore. You got to do it. But we were all together, and Al looked around the room, and not to the white Christians, and not to the others, but to the black men and women, these leaders, these executives. He went around the room just to them, and he said, do you have hope? Do you have hope that right now, looking at the world, that things are going to change? These are senior executives, bank presidents, CEOs. These are people that every one of them admits they have privilege. Every one of them. And every one of them, except the educators. There was a few educators in the room. They remained quiet because they can't say anything at this moment. But every one of the others said no. They said no. Because of the education inequity, because of the economic inequity, because of the housing inequity. We could go on and on and on. Things that most people don't see because it doesn't affect them. The question is, how do we open our eyes and how do we look into the fire? Because if the fire is there, guess what? We got an obligation to do something about it. Al also looked out at the class and recognized that Jews and blacks have an obligation to each other. He said it's been a few decades since the civil rights movement where we all stood together. Now is time. Because not only is racism in the public sphere everywhere, but anti-Semitism is at a high that it hasn't been since 1970. Just yesterday, a Jewish kid at one of our local schools had a student who said, I'm going to shoot you down. Just yesterday. Swastikas, still Heil Hitlers in our schools. Happens almost every week I hear these stories. Thank God for the partnership with the school district that they're helping us, and they've been wonderful partners with us. But we got a lot of work to do. Got a lot of work to do. Dr. Ben Williams has been doing this fight. And he's somebody who fights the fight. He is a warrior. Because he's everywhere he's needed. When it comes to prison reform, he's there. The Cobb County Sheriff, he's in their face. And thank God we've had some changes in recent days. But Dr. Ben Williams is a champion and a fighter. He is currently, since 2012, he was elected the third president of the Cobb County SCLC, of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. For those who are unfamiliar with that, that is Dr. King's organization that was founded. Dr. Williams studied teaching and learning at Cheney University of Pennsylvania, which admittedly many people don't know, right? The first HBCU in this country. And beside the fact that, he went to Overbrook High School in Philadelphia, and he has stories about that, but he and I are both Philadelphia natives, so I'll just leave it at that. He earned a master's in leadership and innovation at Rhode Island College and his doctorate in the areas of system leadership and public policy at Boston University. He also earned his certification in applied politics from the North Carolina Institute for Political Leadership. He is an incredible man, a visionary, somebody who is always there, fighting the fight, no matter what it takes. It is an honor and a privilege to listen to you, to be at your feet tonight. Let us give a warm welcome to my friend and our colleague, Dr. Ben Williams.
Thank you so much. Someone knows that I am not stationary when I talk, and so thank you so much, because I have a tendency to move around. Let me say this. Rabbi, my rabbi, last time you invited me to this occasion, there was a schedule conflict and I could not come. This year, it happens that scheduling was not a problem, and I'm here. And I thought I was somewhat prepared. But I must admit that all that took place prior to my standing up totally scrambled my brains, fueled my spirit, and pushed all of that organized verbiage to the side. I felt as though I was once again at Highlander. As I listened to the music, the arts were an intricate part of what we had a chance to participate in and receive messages that were affirming, reinforcement, and fuel for our spirits to engage in the struggle. And band and choir, that's where you took me to. Once again, haven't been there a long time. I was there, I think, 2 or 3 times at Highlander. And then, as the service flowed, although in my mind, in my head, I've yet to come to grips with understanding it, I could feel it. We used to say about Dr. King, he had the power, awesome power, of reaching his audience whether they had no D or a PhD. Some were able to receive it all intellectually. But large numbers of people, and I would say most people to whom he had occasion to address, received it because they could feel it. And that was the awesome power that this man called King had. So I felt you. I felt you. I'll worry about sorting it out later on. The Spirit is good enough to take care of me. The state of Cobb County, and I understand that there are some teachers here, and you've always got to be on your toes because they will call you out. They'll call you out. But for my friends who are here who are teachers, I know you can appreciate the value that providing context for your lesson is important. Is important. So let me try to see if I can pull together some context for my remarks that ultimately should lead me through some specificity in my talk with you tonight, the state of Cobb County. I was asked to speak on the state of Cobb County. I said earlier, arts have always been a part of messaging for those of us active in the movement. My grandfather gave me an NAACP card when I was 13 years old. Put that in some relevant context. Today, as I speak to you, I am an octogenarian. And much of my development, positive development, started with the handing of a card, membership card to the NAACP. I was active with the youth organization and trained in constructive engagement. That's what the late Cecil B. Moore used to call it, because he was a very powerful man, and he always liked to keep our actions with a positive narrative. He rarely used the word protest. He always referred to what we had to do as constructive engagement. So I was trained up in that. And as a sophomore in college, my activism I carried it there and met some other like-minded people. And we became active in Philadelphia. Now, of course, you need to know that Dr. King failed in his efforts to take his movement north of Mason-Dixon line. And so the settlement of it was largely what? In the Deep South. In the Deep South, where it was able to grow. Growing up in Philadelphia, I had an opportunity to affiliate with a number of groups, but like others during that time, had no tolerance at all for this nonviolent talk. None whatsoever. But fortunately, as I matured, I began to understand the courage and power that one gains if one embraced nonviolent, constructive engagement. I'll admit to you that I was not an A student. Many times, while I was at the Highlander and we were being educated and trained, I was asked to kind of step out So it took me longer than it did many others to fully embrace it. But as I grew, matured, and moved around the country, the sense of it all and the proof of it working became clear to me. How many of you know that during the civil rights period, through constructive engagement, 225 pieces of public policy came out of that? Now, we talk most often about voting rights, civil rights. I mean, those are the, what do you call that? The common references with respect to the civil rights movement. Over 225 pieces of public policy. Charles Dickens, an artist, a poet, wrote a piece where he focused in on, Rabbi, the best of times and the worst of times. Stay with me, I'm coming to the state of Kol. That came to my mind as I was sitting here with fuel in my tank provided by this kind of artistic, if you will, backdrop. Best of times, worst of times, state of Cobb County. I'll say a little bit more about that. I think that was maybe 1880, 1879, I think, when he penned that piece. In 1941, Billie Holiday was co-author to a piece called God Bless the Child. Mama may have, Papa may have, God bless the child that's got his own. That comes to my mind, the state of Cobb. 1971, a singer by the name of Marvin Gaye, and my favorite genre of music is R&B, 60s. That's where I come out of. You follow me? He did a song that revolutionized recording and put before listeners a very, very powerful question. Simply this: what's going on? What's going on? You got me? And he posed the question and also set forth an answer. We've got to find a way to love. We've got to find a way to love. Dr. King pushed in front of us a challenge to do our work towards the end of building something he called the beloved community. It ain't sophisticated. It's not hard. The culture of that community is built upon the agreement. Yes, we are all our brother's keeper. And the culture of that is caring for one another. Absent of hunger, poverty, and hate. I could probably do a 10-page paper on that, but I think that's distillation enough of it. Those would be the attributes of his aspiration for a beloved community. Isaiah 40, 3 through 5. In looking at that book, talks about valleys and road and your journey, traveling. Whatever's crooked would be made straight. Would be made straight. Most of what I shared with you really are places and references that are full of hope. Full of hope. And my conclusion is that life is extended to the extent that we can go to bed every night, wake up every morning with some sense of hope. Exhaust that, and I think a rational question is, why must I live? If I'm void of hope, then why must I live? Now, let me see if I can tie all of that to the state of Cobb. I moved to Cobb County in 2005. And as I got to know people and they found out where I lived, black people, man, you live there? You know, it's terrible. Okay? So much so, often was told me that Cobb really stands for, come on, black boy. And if you're in here, come when it's daylight. And get out of here, black boy, before the sun goes down. These were beliefs of black folk who did not live in Cobb and were really kind of curious as to my being there. And also let me know early that they would not be frequently visiting me coming to Cobb. I'm happy to say that since 2005, in our work with law enforcement, elements of county, city government, unapologetically, I tell folks, Cobb has changed. And I say that without equivocation at all. Now, are we where we should be? The answer is no. The answer is no. But to continue to describe Cobb as I found it would be untruthful. Law enforcement and community relations have improved. SCLC after President Obama released his 21st century report on policing, pulled together 6 of the law enforcement agencies, and we did a group study of that report. And they used it as a point of reference to do self-assessment of their respective departments. Out of that came things like body cameras. Out of that came things like upgrading technology so that you're really pursuing solving crimes rather than profiling folk. Out of that came a commitment to diversify the force. Not only officers on the beat, but also sworn officers who were part of the command staff. See, I believe if you're going to diversify, the way that you show it emphatically is to desegregate the power. So we've moved in that direction. Something happens in the community, a number of us get calls directly from the chief or his designee. Look, Ben, I want to let you know this happened. And then we would go in and sit with them and have no holds barred review of it, because the body cameras, policy-wise, are supposed to be on. They know now that the first question is, when can we come to see the body cameras? Okay, that you don't need to talk. Show us the body cameras. And in instances when some policemen have decided that they would disable or not turn on their body cameras, you can't get away with that. You're going to be sanctioned or be gone. So we've come a long way with law enforcement and Cobb County. Interactions with the county and municipal governments, some progress. Craig Owens, in a year's time, because of his following through on his campaign promise that many of us helped to shape, truth, trust, and transparency. That's what he said he wanted to have happen. And we said to him, as we've said to other chiefs of police, when you get it right, you can depend on us to stand with you. There's no perfect organization. Something happens that is problematic, and you're committed to fix it, we will stand with you. If you're going to now be the blocking force in denial about it, then we may have a problem. We may have a problem. That's the case with all of our law enforcement agencies, the county sheriff's office, the district attorney's office. I am meeting with the newly elected solicitor, chat with them, as well as a number of our state and superior magistrate, state, and superior court judges. I work with Brendan Murphy, and if you don't know him, Brendan, in my opinion, is one of the most resolute, open judges in the judicial system in Cobb. So if you haven't met Brendan Murphy, it's worth a meeting with him just to understand how he has led the way and understand the magistrate court is the lowest court. You know, misdemeanors and things like that. Been following what has happened during the pandemic. The shrinkage of available housing for folk whose income by our Cobb standards, I think the kindest thing I can say is marginal. Okay? And the treatment that they receive from landlords has been, in many instances, awful. In Georgia, we are a landlord-driven state, unlike some other places where tenants even have organizations. Okay? Run that through. That has changed. That has changed. We still got work to do in trying to really get our elected leadership to be serious and courageous about making changes. Early coming in my research on Cobb County, I ran across an article in one of the publications I was reading, and it gave a history of the formation of this place called Cobb County. The article left me at the end of the read is that Cobb County essentially was settled by folk individually were self-sustaining, and it was not at all settled in such a way that it adapted to the in-migration of a whole socioeconomic group of people. So the tension that exists about expanding transportation is rooted out of that. Or, in fact, building mixed use, if you will, or housing on a sliding scale. It was not built for that. Okay? The dire point for me, most of our public servants in all of the literature comments on the value added when a municipality's public servants live in the communities that they serve. We can't afford to live here. I've run into teachers who became homeless and were sleeping in their cars with their children. We were a part of a church network on a rotating basis where shelter was provided. Rabbi, it was anything that is helpful ought to be appreciated. If you're looking for water, a drop in the bucket is appreciated. However, it's going to take a long time for you to accumulate the water that you need. So the efforts being made by churches, and even as we move to the larger entities like Must Ministry, Must is always reporting out the number of folk who are without shelter that somebody works a month has to say, no, that's the last person we can take in, with a line of folk still there. So there's a problem. There's a problem. And continuing to look at the problem through lens of yesterday ain't going to help us get to where we need to get to. Our schools, and especially Cobb County School District, where I've had to spend most of my time, getting to know a number of those parents, Rabbi, whose kids bring to them first-person accounts of the racism to which they see that goes on in their schools. Regrettably, I don't recognize a school board that has taken any position other than denial and deflection. I'm a recovering urban school superintendent. Teachers know what I'm talking. Yes, I am in recovery. I don't think that I will ever be cured. Okay? So I understand where the power is to make change. My longevity is predictable depending upon the support that I have from my employer. Superintendent is the only employee of any board of education. So until that is fixed, we will have a continuing problem. Racism is alive and well. State of Cobb County. Cobb County government, there is movement to try and address some of the problems. If you read the Marietta Daily Journal, admittedly, occasionally I do that, and sometimes the calls that I get, did you see such and such? Nah. But it is reporting some good news. Habitat for Humanity. They've just cut a deal with the Marietta Housing Authority to build a modest number of affordable homes. And again, I am not one who is unappreciative. But I recognize a drop in the bucket when I see one. You follow me? Maybe a half dozen houses will come out of that for public service employees, teachers, policemen, firemen, emergency readiness group. Okay? Virtually all of them live outside of Cobb County. Cobb County has really delegated its responsibility, state of Cobb County Rabbi, to the Marietta Housing Authority, as opposed to investing resources to stand up its own. How many of you know that we have a county housing authority? How many of you know that? That we have a county housing authority. other than being an entity that has several members on that authority who are referred to as the board. You follow me? That's it. That's it. State of Cobb County. And one of the real problems we have here is access to attainable, affordable housing. State of Cobb County. So, what I would say, Rabbi, in response to your invitation to talk about the state of Cobb County, is that work is going on, a whole lot needs to be done, and finally, as my granddaddy used to say, where there's a will, there's a way. So as we talk about what we can do, if we are interested in being a part of love, and love is an action word, being a part of demonstrating our love, then we have got to unchain our interests and capability and put that into action. And together, yes, we can.
Amen. Amen. Dr. Williams, thank you so much for those words, those remarks. There's a lot more to be said, there's no doubt. And we hope that together we continue to do this work. And whether it's a drop in the bucket or more than that, we pray that we can come together in peace and love and do this work. Now is the time. So we hope we're all together this evening. Thank you. Thank you. We continue as we close out our service with Elenu on page 282 as we rise together. Elenu is our prayer for the redemption of our world, and it requires all of us to be part. We rise together, page 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, atek
Gedula
yotzer bereshit, shelo asan g'yei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Page 287.
V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, U'shemo, U'shemo,
You may be seated as we think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us and those who died at this season in years past. You can find our yard site, our list of whose deaths fall on this Shabbat, this time of year, in your handout. We remember Sarah Tanya Arkin, Clara Oslander, Ellen Bauer, Irving Brostoff, Paul Israel Badovsky, Brenda Cohen, Jack Cooper, Pearl Cooper, Robert Crawford, Howard Epstein, Florence Gaynor, Abraham Gross, Herbert Hess, James Hess, Francis Jenkins, Jeffrey Kalika, Rose Leader, Martha Light, Milton Maniak, Lester Mosbacher, Winnie Rich, Ben Rothfeder, Bernie Schlacht, Abraham Schwartz, Gussie Zinkow, Max Zwieben, and Ruth Zwieben. And we remember all of those who died in this past year. We remember Joseph Goldman, Cecile Wolfert Godelski, Barbara Markowitz, Hal Lieberman, Michael Cohen, Freddie Fine, Stacy Hill, Robert Weiss, Donnie Price, Harry Mix, Marvin Abish, Don Lamberg, Stuart Devoskin, Mel Gordon, Mark Stiller, Howie Levner, Jack Spar, Paul Graboff, Evelyn Hausman Morris, Evelyn Gross, Larry Bowman, Jack Mendel, Jonathan Koleski, and Marshall Irvin from the Cobb County Sheriff Deputy's Office, Charlene Jacoby, Barbara Wolin Kirshner, Stephanie Cooper Schulman, Francine Friedlander, Arlene Moniak, Clyde Teasley, Emily Jane Edelstein, Jeffrey Bruce Sibin, Gordon Goldsmith, Hartley Stephen Spat, and David Benowitz. If there are other names at this time, please feel free to share as we go around the sanctuary. Thank you. And on this,
Liddy Boyd and Kenai Pierre Lewis.
and on this Shabbat, we remember Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. As we rise as one community, as we remember the 6 million of our martyred brothers and sisters that perished in the Holocaust, along with those men and women who have given their lives and continue to give their lives in the fight for freedom and for justice in our world, along with those who also protect our freedom, those men and women who protect these United States as well as the state of Israel. Zichronam livracha. May all of their memories be for a blessing. Our mourners Kaddish, our mourners prayer, page 294. It's a prayer that doesn't mention death once, only praising God for another day in this world to make a difference in their memories. We join together. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah. Amen. Yalmad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael bagalau v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach leolam ulalmei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'pa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudsha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Hey shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. It is my honor at this time. You want me to come to you? To welcome back to make announcements, the president of our congregation, Jody Roberts.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. Thank you, guys. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So good to see all of you guys here. Really, it's so good to see you. I would like to start by thanking Dr. Ben Williams for your words of hope and the work that you do. Thank you for what you do, and we look forward to your continued work and for you being here again with us. Thank you to our guest singers. Thank you for being here. We're so glad to have you. I do hope we'll see you again soon, and I will look forward to that day. Thank you to the Ovat Torah Band. We appreciate all that you are, all that you do, and we enjoy your music every time you're in front of us. Thank you. Once again, Mazel Tov to Molly and to Oliver. Congratulations. This is an exciting time for you in your upcoming wedding. We're so glad to be here and to be a part of it. And thank you to Alan and Cynthia for sponsoring tonight's Oneg Shabbat in honor of their Ofruf. In observance of Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, there will be no religious school this Sunday, and the office will be closed on Monday. However, there is Torah study tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in person and on Zoom. Please join us next Friday for our family Shabbat service. There's an optional special Shabbat dinner from Willie's. Oh, I like Willie's. At 6 o'clock. The Shabbat service begins at 7 p.m. Both dinner and the service are open to the entire community. Please RSVP for the dinner if you plan to join us. And I would strongly encourage you to come. I know it's earlier and it's family, but it is such an exciting thing to be amongst the families and their children when they're here. So I do encourage you to participate in that. The TKE Center for Jewish Life and Learning is kicking off the next adult education series, which will focus on mindfulness and Judaism. Please join Rabbi Cernovitz on select Sunday morning starting at 9 o'clock on January 22nd. We invite all who have served as president of the board and any of the past board members to accept our thanks and blessing at our Shabbat evening service on Friday, January 27th. There will be a wine and cheese reception at 7:15 p.m. and the service begins at 8 p.m. We do hope to see you there. I was going to tell you about WRJ's dinner at 8, but I've got someone next to me who absolutely insists on being able to say those words, so I'm going to pass the mic to her for just a very brief minute or two.
Hint, hint. Speaking of food, a week from this Saturday is the dinner at 8, but actually it's dinner at 6. We have 3 openings left for which you can sign up. We have these wonderful hosts and chefs who are making all these wonderful foods. We have Jewish home cooking from appetizers through desserts, comfortable and cozy, which is all kinds of soups that warm the soul, and of course Persian, poker, and bourbon. Now and you also got this card by which you can just scan and sign in, or you can go to the TKE website and look under Sisterhood, scan down, and you can sign up. You can also sign up tonight. I happen to have forms for which you can put your name and email. We'll contact you, and so please do see me after services. Looking forward to seeing you. Shabbat Shalom.
Okay, deadline to sign up is on Wednesday if anybody didn't hear that. I will say this, it can be a lot of fun. Having attended in the past, I've really enjoyed myself, and I have to tell you that it's not fun if you don't go. So you have to go to have the fun, and I strongly encourage you to do that as well. Before I conclude, I want to say something personal. You guys see how I've kind of ambled up here. I have been the recipient of a committee that we don't often think about and we don't speak to very often, and that's the Caring Committee. And I want to thank the leadership of the Caring Committee, Elise Schaefer and Lisa Malice, who were, who have been a very, very huge part of how successful the Caring Committee is. And without them, I'm not sure that I would be here where I am right now, which is back in front of you. I've been the recipient of. There are going to be changes in the very near future with the Caring Committee, and I want you please to stay, to be alert to that. We need your support because it's an integral part of who we are and what we do, and I want to make sure that that continues. Finally, we have many more special Shabbat services coming up, which are listed in the program. Check out the Takia in your inbox each Tuesday morning, and you can also always visit kolemeth.net for more details on all of our upcoming events. We do hope to see you at as many as you can possibly participate. Thank you so much, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And I know Jody was going to thank Tim for the continued support.
Oh my gosh, yes. Absolutely. I am very little without this man. I love you and thank you.
Well done, Tim. Congratulations. So it is, as we prepare to do a blessing and a closing, it's my honor to call forward Molly and Oliver, who are celebrating what we call an ufruf, which is a blessing before they get married here at the synagogue. So Molly, Oliver, come on up. I know Cynthia, proud mom, and Alan, proud dad. We want to wish you guys a mazel tov on this incredible moment for both of you. Now, I want to, and it's, whether you, Cynthia, you picked this Shabbat because you knew what was going to happen tonight, or not, because their lives are really intertwined in this work, not here, but in Washington, D.C. So I want to just share some pieces with them. They first met, by the way, and this is important to mention. I have lots of things to share about them, but they first met at a Jewish Federation event in Washington, D.C., where there was a wonderful program, which is now what's called Next Gen, but this is a young professionals group, and Oliver had been involved and comes in late, Molly, to the meeting. And as Oliver shares, he saw her, and he's like, whoa. And his mind totally went in another direction. And at that meeting, they were supposed to be preparing some incredible work with vulnerable populations in Washington, D.C., and Oliver was all ready to do it, and Molly is all in as well, so you can guess that they had to get together to plan, and not much planning happened, actually, at that meeting when the two of them got together. So it's important just to mention a little bit about them. Molly's dedicated herself to public service. She was the racial equity advisor in the office for Deloitte, and then currently she is now the national campaign director of a democracy renewal nonprofit dedicated to renewing the promise of multiracial democracy and social justice. And Oliver, who used to work, I will say, I gotta say this, used to work for Major League Baseball, and has a journalism degree from the University of Maryland. And yes, we will, of course, mention George Washington University, GW, where you sit on the board, as well as an alumna. That Oliver went from going from Major League Baseball, now is a middle school teacher with a focus on, as in his words as well, decolonizing his syllabus and grounding his education in anti-racism. Created and leads a program about mindful masculinity through an allyship with Jewish Federation of Washington, D.C. Molly and Oliver met, as we've mentioned. Interestingly enough, Oliver is now co-chair of the Next Gen board, and Molly just finished a term as the Jewish International's Impact Network president for the past 3 years. They're both dedicated to making a difference in this world. And interestingly enough, it happens also to not only be Molly's 29th birthday today, but it is also her 16th anniversary of her bat mitzvah here at Kol Emeth. So I'm going to call David Susie Mayer to come up and open the ark to bring out the Torah to, I'm joking. And while here, Molly sung solos and duets with cantor and choir, and while Cynthia was on the board. And they will be married on March 25th, 2023 in Washington, D.C. by our Rabbi Emeritus, by Rabbi Lebo. So we want to offer a blessing to this beautiful couple on their just few weeks left of being engaged, almost married, as we offer this blessing. Mishaberach Avotenu v'imotenu Avraham, Yitzhak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah. Hu yivarech chatan ve'et hakala v'yitzlach et darkam asher yelchu va mehayom v'halach. Yachdav yimtzeu tamid chen v'chesed be'enei kol ro'eim v'yizku livnot bait b'Yisrael l'shem v'litilah v'yishalom b'veitam v'shalva v'hashket bilvotam kol hayamim asher hem chaim al ha'adama ve'et hashoshanim ve'et kol hayoshvim po hu yivorech b'chol atov v'yivarech yameihem ba'nimim v'yishlach bracha v'hatzlacha v'kol ma'aseh yadehem im kol Yisrael achechem v'nomar. We say together, Amen. Amen. May God, who bless the men and women of Israel in every generation, bless this groom and this bride, Malka bat Amiel v'Sara Leah, and Yisrael Binyamin ben Yitzhak Lev v'Sara Shifra, these incredible, incredible people. Guide them on life's journey. May their marriage be a joy and a good example to all who know them. May they fashion a Jewish home worthy of praise, a secure refuge where they find tranquility during all the days together. May the love of this couple inspire and bless their family, their friends, the community of Israel, and all who are looking for hope in this world. And we say together, Amen. Amen. And we wish you a l'chaim, as we say, It's up to you. Well done. You're learning fast, Oliver. You're learning fast. As we join in Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim, to life.
Mazel tov, 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 mazel tov. Yelanu, 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 Kol Yisrael. Yelanu, yelanu, Kol Yisrael. Mazel tov, 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 mazel tov.
And as we break bread, as we share in the motzi, we will end immediately following with a song that we all know, because we all need each other right now. So I'm not even going to tell you what it is. You can guess what it's going to be. We're all going to rise together as we bless one another with our closing song. Before we do that, we join in motzi.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread.
Thanks, God.
Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Teavon, enjoy. Join with us. And you know what? If you're not next to somebody, you can put your arms around some people. Let's show the love, people. Let's show the love.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill
Laws.
Pastor Pamela Laws from Mableton, North Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm Deacon Edwin Laws from Total Truth Restoration Ministries.
Bert Cann, I'm from here.
Blake Singer, Duluth, Minnesota.
Kirby Dorson from here.
Ira Weisman, Cleveland.
Wayne Melnick on the drums. And we will say, on behalf of Bishop Washington and Bishop Coleman and overseer our friend Steve Sherrod, who they're not able to be here tonight because they're planning some 50th birthday party for Bishop Coleman that he didn't invite any of them to. So one of those things. So we want to wish him. I turned 50 just a couple weeks before he did. So I didn't get the red carpet that he's getting tomorrow. That's all I'm hearing. And to our friend, Dr. Ben Williams of the SCLC. The best way to continue this friendship and fellowship is to join with refreshments in the social hall. We want to thank everyone for being here this evening. God bless you. And guess what? The time is when? The time is now. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Please bring your prayer books back to Cindy, who's waiting at the door.
We made it.